Hey, folks, how's it going? So while I'm waiting for Malik to get themselves together, I am gonna get us started off. Small, simple prayer to open things up. The sons and daughters of Muspelheim, the fire itself. And Miko Elevate, Elevate, Hail Elis ancestor. Asuna, Alogi Lat, Alogi Asart, Asamora. Miko Elevate, Elevate. Wow. Holy Ones, thank you for cleansing me within and without. Thank you for cleansing this space. Thank you for inviting the good Vetir to join us tonight. The good Kendrega and the guides, the ancestors in the Vetir. Thank you for blessing us. Thank you for cleansing and clearing this space. Thank you for establishing good communication with us and between us. Hello.
Anything because my sound is off.
No, you're good.
There we go. Hello. Apologize for being late. Again. I was all set to be early, and then I fucked around.
But did you find out?
No, not really. Well, technically, late.
You haven't missed us. It's only 9:02. Welcome,
Yeah.
welcome. So we have one person waving hi at us. That's Kay. Hello, Kay. Welcome, welcome.
Hello.
I think Kay is a newcomer because I don't recognize the username.
I also don't recognize the username.
Awesome. As a reminder to folks at the top of the show, if you want to join us for the after party, Three Pagans on Tap Discord, you can find that associated link on our YouTube channel.
You can. In the
Description.
Yeah.
Yep. And so, how are you?
I am good. I woke up from a nap half an hour ago.
Got you.
Hence my scrambling, but that's about it.
That's what midnighters do.
Very true.
So, what are you drinking tonight?
I am drinking a gin sour made with some of our homemade elderflower syrup and this bramble gin from it's Bombay Bramble.
Interesting.
Which is a raspberry and blackberry flavored gin. It's not sweet at all, but it does have raspberry and blackberry flavor.
Oh, okay.
But then you mix it with lime and the elderflower syrup, and it's actually really delightful. So
I am having Bunratty mead, which is an Irish mead. And I'm also going to be doing a Michelob Amberbock, excuse me.
Okay.
And we'll see where I go from there. I'll kind of announce as I go drinking
Fair.
other things. I know I'm doing the stupid thing a little early of mixing beer with wine, but oh well.
That doesn't matter. It's a myth.
I know, but still.
No, but it's worth mentioning. Like it's actually a myth. There is a little bit of something to drinking red wine before other things, like at the start of the night, because the tannins can actually help prevent you being sick because they can coat your stomach. But basically, all of the rest is: did you eat? Have you had water? How much did you drink and how fast?
Got you.
How big are you? Those are basically the factors to pay attention to.
I've got a lot of genetic factors in my favor.
Also that, but that's not stuff you can control.
No.
So, yeah. Do you mind doing the prayer tonight?
Not at all.
Appreciate
so,
you.
Hail to the ancestors that know us. Hail to the ancestors we know. Hail to the ancestors who bless us. Hail to the ancestors who've grown. Hail to the ancestors who guide the way. Hail to the ancestors who light. Hail to the ancestors who are in peace. And hail to the ancestors who fight. Hail to the ancestors that bring us hope, and hail to the ancestors that bring us life, and hail to the ancestors that are with us now, and hail to the ancestors at the end. Blessed ones, blessed ones, blessed ones. Ancestors of blood and bone, of adoption, of lineage, of profession and initiation and Vetir. Holy ones all, thank you for your presence, thank you for your blessings, and thank you for always, always being with us, even if we don't know you yet. Hail. Yes, to answer your question, I do have water. I have about 3 containers of water. I'm stacked for water.
Nice. Good. For reference, Kay says, yeah, gang, did you have water? Yes.
Yes,
I hydrated before I came down, and have actually been reasonably good about hydrating all day. Excuse me. Because I was out and about all day, running errands and doing chores and things. You know.
I get that.
Yep. Nothing super exciting, but, oil changes have to happen.
You mean spiritual people have to do fucking vehicle maintenance? What bullshit's this?
Honestly, it is bullshit. I do not like it. Like, this is not what I do for fun. But
look,
also,
can I just contract a familiar to take care of it?
I mean, you might, but that's going to cost you a lot.
Right?
So, jumping into conversations, how plebeian, yes. Jumping into conversations. So we both tackled the same topic with 3 different blog posts in the last couple of days.
It's good stuff.
For those who are not aware, Sarenth and I both got very similar topics from the same patron on our Patreons to do with non-human ancestors and how to reckon with that. And at the same time, I also asked Sarenth to completely before I got this topic from the patron, asked Sarenth to write about reflections on belonging to various spiritual clans and households and families and etc. So it was just like one after the other of the same topic. It was very funny to me. Oh, thank you for posting that in there.
Yup. I completely I posted a bunch of other places, and of course, forgot to post it in our own damn server.
Oh, like you do.
So, I enjoy this topic quite a bit. It's something that is really kind of the core of where the metal of animism and polytheism meets the meat, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, when it comes to questions around how do we nurture spiritual relationships, there are so many ways to take that. It's why I'm so happy that both you and Kunian hit this topic for this month for me, because it is so fucking juicy, and there's like a million different directions you can take it.
Yeah,
and it's also not my first time talking about it, because I have a 3-part post I made called something to the effect of the politics of spirits or something like that. It's linked in my my WordPress, sarenth.wordpress.com. If you go to my latest blog post, which talks about non-human ancestors, I actually have it linked in that post as well. So, having tackled political implications of spiritual relationships, then there's the familial, which I did with the non-human ancestors post, and then there's like, how do we relate? How do we understand these things? It's just a continuous unfolding that no one author, no one group could hope to really tackle all of it.
Yeah, no, for sure. No, and you're completely right, because it was very interesting, because you went with this very long, slightly rambling, but coherent exploration of the topic and all of these things. And I went with like basically a formal logic proof of here's how this set is defined, here's how this set is defined, here's how they overlap. Logical proof. There you go.
I mean, it helps that this is not the first, second, third, or fourth time I've been asked this question as a Patreon question. So, like, every time I get asked a question like it asks me to go either a little deeper or a little sideways or a little more into
Mhm.
what these spiritual relationships are like and how they deploy themselves in our lives. And sometimes it can be very much like, congrats, you just gained a new uncle. Other times it's like, congrats, you just gained a new boss.
Yeah, no kidding. As Kay says, this is very on brand. Yeah, and it's just very interesting how yours was very exploratory and almost story based, and mine was very like XYZ equals XYZ, blah blah blah. It was, I don't know. I thought it was very interesting.
Yeah, our different ways of tackling almost the same damn question is real fun. It's one of the things that I like about our exchanges, both here and otherwise. And it's also one of the things of when I tell people, don't let fear stop you from exploring these relationships and talking about them. It's shit like this that we need, because it, outside of circles like ours, like whether it's around Grandfather Fire, Three Pagans on Tap, um, or the personal communities that we're involved in, these kinds of conversations do not happen as often as people might assume they do.
Yeah.
Like, when you come into a community where the spiritual relationships are vibrant and lively instead of based on archetype, for instance, which was very popular when I first became a pig. If you check some of my early posts, I actually do use archetypes in a very gods fit into these molds of archetypes of warrior or shaman or sage or whatever. But I don't. They're more like the term you often use is like baggage handle.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of how I was using the term archetype, which isn't quite what Jung meant. So this is also a problem with, like, let's stop bastardizing psychological language, please. Because I know what Jung meant because I fucking studied psychology.
Right. Well, and not to mention that Jung was also bastardizing Hindu concepts himself.
Right.
Because, why not? It's always astounding to me how much that just happens in especially early psychology.
Oh, yeah.
Also, like Maslow's hierarchy of needs is just Blackfoot theology, or Blackfoot like philosophy of how to function as a tribe and as a person.
With the pyramid flipped.
Yeah. With the pyramid flipped.
Because of course it was.
Yeah. And the community aspect stripped out, because he was like, fuck that, I don't need other people. I'm an individual. I'm being a complete asshole. Like, I mean, I'm not, because like he did steal that.
That is precisely what happened.
But
You're
also,
not fucking wrong.
Yeah.
But this is like when it comes to nurturing spiritual relationships. Actually, I'm going to use that as a segue, because it's actually really important knowing who you're getting the perspective from. If you're approaching something like Maslow's hierarchy of needs as a truth, which is fine, what truths and what hermeneutics and what heuristics are you accepting? What shortcuts to your thought are being programmed when you accept a truth as a truth?
Yeah.
Because this, I mean, and people are like, well, why are you even tackling this? This is off. You're off brand already. Like, no. If this is how you set up how you engage in a relationship from the jump, that dictates how these relationships go, what you allow into your life, who you are, how you relate to things. Like, your philosophical foundation actually really fucking matters on how your spiritual relationships come about, let alone how you nurture them.
Absolutely. And that's, I don't as much anymore, but I used to take really great pains to emphasize I am coming from an animist and polytheist perspective. I tend more towards the splitter versus lumper as far as polytheism goes, where if spirits or deities have different names, I will tend to treat them as separate beings rather than the same being until proven otherwise. which is really funny to me how much that has proven otherwise in my practice in recent years, but that's a whole other thing. Not a whole
to
other
me, it's just a smart default. Like,
yeah,
whether or not like the gods eventually go, all right, that's enough of that shit.
yeah,
Like,
right. But it's also very funny to me how much syncretism has happened in my practice in the last few years, where it's like, that is not a thing that I tend towards, but it is what happened. Because, as relationships grow and change, they grow and change. And then, oh, I thought these were two separate beings that I was talking to. It turns out, no, it was the same guy, just wearing a different face. Okay. Right. And I try to really emphasize, I don't as much anymore, but I especially used to, and I do now when I find it to be important, really emphasize the animism, the polytheism, how my polytheism tends to work, whether I'm coming from a strictly heathen perspective, whether I'm coming from a pack tradition perspective, which is increasingly the case that I'm just coming from a pack tradition perspective, because that's just what I'm doing now. And all of these things make a lot of difference, right? I've talked about in a post for Sarenth before how like the pack tradition doesn't really have weave of fate. Like that's not really a thing. It's a useful metaphor that I can still use sometimes, but that's not a foundational principle of the cosmology.
right.
It very much is in heathenry, so that changes things. I had a thought on how, but then it died in my head, and that's fine.
I think it's really interesting how not only we evolve as people, but how our institutions evolve with us and reflect whether or not we are growing, reflect whether or not we are actually engaged.
Yeah.
I would say that this is also part of the reason why many national organizations are experiencing either explosive growth or a hard reorganization, because we've gotten to this point where a lot of the membership of different orgs, and you can see this politically, you can see this spiritually, I mean, damn near any lens you look at it with, we are just in a really shifty time. And the nurturing of relationships is really coming to be the foundation of how we're able to live anymore. You can see this in the job market. Like, word of mouth is more important than ever because the rise of AI has made it so that you are basically pitching your shit at a program that may or may not sort you correctly.
Yep.
Costs of HR are increased because we don't hold good relationships with employees or prospective employees anymore. And so the way to end run around the system anymore is to have personal connections. And people go, oh, well, that's nepotism. That's nepotism. Like, motherfucker, call it what you will. But if it's the only way into the fucking building, people will take the only way into the fucking building.
Yeah, no kidding.
And I think that we're actually encountering this very much so within our communities, where the AI problem is an issue, but the straitjacketing of relationships and methods of development are breaking free of a lot of the bonds we put ourselves into in an effort to be more acceptable to society. So a lot of the ways in which there were acceptable relationships are kind of going by the wayside all at once, because you had this, and this is a cycle repeating itself, because there was a period in the 90s in paganism where dark gods were really denigrated. And if you were outside the mainstream of, which is fucking hilarious because it's like a subculture of a subculture, if you were outside the mainstream of pagan circles in the 90s, you were worshiping these dark gods like Hecate. And now they've become part of the mainstream again. And it's just really goddamn funny to me.
It's also really funny to me how Hecate is considered a dark god, and it's like one of their names is a Lightbringer. Okay,
right.
sure.
Literally is Phosphoros. Like, okay.
Yeah, like, all right, yeah. Tell me you don't read the myths without telling me you don't read the myths.
But I mean, this is like the very basis of nurturing spiritual relationships is actually knowing who the fuck you're talking to.
Mm-hmm.
And I think not only on the one hand, just fucking Google it isn't really working anymore.
It's really not. The amount of misinformation and disinformation that's out there is really quite astounding, and that's even just on spiritual topics, where like and niche spiritual topics, like paganism, where it's like there isn't that much information, but there is, and flatly brands like Llewellyn, that their entire market plan is to just churn out as many books as possible with frankly not a lot of checking, and a lot of the stuff that they churn out is garbage, and because
I agree with that statement, at the same time recognizing sometimes in spite of themselves they find diamonds in the rough.
Oh, for sure. Like, that's not to say that everything that Llewellyn has ever published is bad. Like, I'm certain that a lot of it is fine, but because they constantly churn out bad material, they are continually adding to and flooding the market with this crap material that people who don't know better are going to have a hard time separating from good material.
Correct.
And that actively hurts the community because it actively makes it harder to sort information and to act on good information in establishing and growing and nurturing these relationships that is the core of what we're doing.
Yeah. I think it's very easy to point at Llewellyn and go, well, you have a piss poor business model. I think the problem is twofold, and Llewellyn and outfits like it are part of the problem. And the flip part of it is that the consumers of these books are no longer discerning like they would.
Yeah.
The fact that Marie Silva is still being recommended by folks, despite being a fucking AI bot, means that people aren't paying attention anymore.
Oh, 100%. Although I would say people weren't ever paying that much attention. It was just slower, so it was a little easier to ignore.
The interpretation has certainly sped up. That's very true.
Yeah, like I think it's less that people aren't paying attention and more that things are just so much faster. Mm-hmm. It's harder to catch, and it's easier to get swept away. I think that's a lot of it.
I'd agree. So when it comes to nurturing spiritual relationships, I think that is actually something that we're actually having to grapple with a lot more than we used to when I first became a pagan. I think even when you first joined the community, the enshittification of not just search engines, but publishing houses and just sources of information in general has become so...
It's become significantly worse in the last few years, yeah.
Like, just since I met you, it is amazing how lousy it is to find solid information. And I don't mean, like, you can't find any good information, but you have to fucking dig and you have to know what you're looking for.
Yeah. Well, and that's part of why we do a lot of recommending on here and try to have people on for a variety of things, a variety of topics, because it's like, and not everyone, in fact, most of the people we bring on aren't like published authors or anything, but they're members of the community that you can go to for information. And you can know that that person is at least not going to, one, actively try to harm you, and two, is going to give you the information that they believe to the best of their ability, right? Yeah.
I mean, the foundation of nurturing spiritual relationships has to do with approach. And this is just like one aspect, and we could probably do an entire show on it.
Oh, absolutely. No problem.
But I think the next step, like once you've got an idea of who you want to contact and how, the next step is, all right, actually fucking contact them. It's not enough to just set an icon of them on the altar and never talk to it.
Yeah. Yeah, and that was actually the thing that I kind of wanted to emphasize with this, and thank you for bringing that up, because it had flown out of my head in the intervening days. Was a lot of it for me, a lot of nurturing relationship is just spending the fucking time. It's you're not going to nurture a relationship with your spouse by never fucking seeing them. You're not going to nurture a relationship with your kids by never fucking seeing them. You're not going to nurture a relationship with your divinities by never spending time at your altar. You know, you can be as talented and gifted and have as much potential as you want. If you don't spend the time, if you are never at your altar, what is it? It's nothing. It's
right.
Yeah.
And I'm right there with you. Like if you set up it's one of the things that used to come about when Instagram first launched and everyone's doing these Instagram altars. It's like, that's really pretty. Are you ever going to fucking pray at it?
Yeah.
Because my working altars never look that pretty. And it's not because I don't put effort into making them pretty. It's because I fucking work with them.
Yeah.
Like you can tell when somebody sets up an altar to work with it versus it's an aesthetic.
Yeah.
And I'm not shitting on aesthetics because aesthetics matter, especially some spirits, especially like that can be very much a working altar. I would say the majority of the ones that we see on Instagram aren't.
Yeah, I would agree. And don't get me wrong, I like a pretty altar. You know, I try really. It's actually one of my pet peeves is that like, fuck, I'm always cleaning incense ash off this altar. It is so frustrating because I just want it to be pretty, but I'm always cleaning incense ash off the altar.
Right.
Because I'm always burning incense at the altar.
Right.
And I actually haven't been at my altar in too long, but that's not the point. I've been working mostly at the family altar instead of mine. But
I mean, this is also like the flip side of nurturing spiritual relationships is you can't be in them all the fucking time.
Yes.
Like, it's one of the things where like people are like, well, why do you only recommend visiting your altar once a month? Real talk, you work a 40-hour work week, you have a family or you have a loved one that takes up some of your time. And I'm one of these people that prioritizes religion ahead of my family. And I still have to prioritize the gods, you know, once a week or once every 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Because that's just real life. Because if I don't work, they don't get no fucking offerings.
Yep, 100%. I would say, though, that I also think you're selling yourself a bit short there in that you make offerings every time I see you, you're making an offering, at least.
Okay,
and
you know what? Okay.
And that's not even, I'm not talking about like, well, yeah, because I only see Sarenth for spirit work. No, like even like a fucking, I roll over because we're just hanging out, doing whatever. And Sarenth, you have put 6 cups of coffee on the altar in the last hour. Like, what the fuck? They can share, I promise.
I mean, okay. So
I'm teasing.
I mean, no, you're right though. You are right. So I'm kind of tripping over my words because I do a lot, and I'm. Yes, sometimes it's helpful to be called on the carpet for it because I do a lot of spiritual labor for my God's ancestors in Vater Meginregen. And I also emphasize with people like you are not expected to hit this level ever. I am an active, ongoing professional spirit worker. I have shit to do, TM. Most people don't, and that doesn't mean they're less than me. It just means if I have to perform at this level, these are the obligations I carry.
Yep.
Also, a lot of my religion takes place as part of hearth cultists, so it's so integrated in my life. Sometimes I literally don't think about it because it's just part of the milieu of how I do my day.
Yeah.
And that, again, is not me crowing or anything. It's not me gloating. It's literally just my spiritual relationships are like a lot of really good relationships. There's times where you can go on autopilot and the relationship maintains itself.
Yep. You can't do that forever, but...
No, certainly not. But when it comes to daily prayers, when it comes to daily offerings, like there's less... I wouldn't say there's less thought put into it. I would say that I set myself up so that I don't have to do as much labor to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, a lot of labor is mental labor.
Yeah.
Because it's not very hard to get up, pour a cup of coffee, and slap it down somewhere for a spirit. But it does take mental effort for me to fucking remember to do it because ADHD is a bitch.
Yeah. Yeah. No, and I would very much agree. And it's also not just okay, but good for these relationships to take on different faces occasionally, right?
Oh, God, yes.
Like I was saying a few minutes ago, like most of what I've been doing recently has been at the family altar, right? Where I've been, so I live in the basement, or or my room is in the basement, and then we've got the family altar up on the first floor with the hearth. And so most of my work recently has been up there. So I have been, frankly, ignoring my personal altar, which is a thing that needs to change, and I recognized that last night. But it's not like I've been ignoring the relationship. It's just got a different face because I've been doing stuff mostly up there.
Right.
And that's just how it is. And there's reasons for it too, right? It's not like, oh, well, it just happened. And sometimes things just happen, but like it happened because most of the work that I've been doing has been household level focused. It has been, that kind of thing. It hasn't just been my personal relationships. It has been my household's relationship with all of our divinities, because 3 spirit workers live here. So, we have a lot of fucking work to do.
Right.
And on top of that, there has been, because of like some personal changes in my life, there was some consecration of specific items that are household based, and kind of renewing and reforging relationships that I had held personally into household based ones. And that changes things, right? That means that certain pieces that were on my personal altar went up to the family altar because they're family pieces now, right? They don't belong to me, they belong to us.
Right.
And that changes things a lot. It also means that because I've been largely working with those aspects, now I'm going upstairs. Why? Because they live upstairs instead of downstairs with my personal altar. I'm rambling and I don't remember what my point was, but that's okay.
Well, this is an ongoing nurturing of spiritual relationship through a lot of different lenses, both as a personal and as a household practice. And I think that, especially for those of us who hold hearth cultists with other people, like taking it easy on yourself is hard, but you kind of need to, because you can't be doing this all the time. You'll burn yourself the fuck out. And to your point earlier of spiritual relationships changing over time, I would not be able to do all the things I do if I had maintained the kind of fiery, let's go relationship with Odin when he and I first got together. I would burn the fuck out to a crisp.
Yep.
And so, by necessity, sometimes there has to be lulls in the relationships we carry. And there's going to be times of intensity. One of the things that's coming forward a lot for me right now is the Svartalfar are being very forward. Whereas some of my gods are kind of like stepping back as more spirits are coming forward, as more Vaithya are coming forward. And so there's this kind of a push and pull that just happens in life. And so nurturing spiritual relationships really does take different speeds at different times in your life. And you might come into paganism fresh-faced and going, oh my gosh, I'm going to be friends with all the gods. And then realize not only is this way too fucking hasty, but also if you're friends with everybody, you're actually like companions with no one.
Yeah.
Because what you are at that point is you cannot be friends with everybody. You can be acquaintances, but you can't really be friends.
Yeah. And that's okay. Like, there's nothing wrong with being acquaintances, right? There's nothing wrong with like, but
there's a certain amount of expectations you got to lower if you're going to try to be friends with everybody all at once.
Right. And like, so for example, over the weekend, I participated in a big ritual for a friend where I carried Fenrir. And Fenrir and I know him, but we're not close. He's not really on my altar. Like, I've made offerings before and all of that, but we're not really close. The reason that it worked is because I was doing a thing for my friend and he was showing up for my friend. And so it was that shared relationship with my friend that brought the thing together. And also, we didn't know each other, right? Like, we were acquaintances at that kind of level. And so, like, it all kind of worked together. Excuse me. On the flip side, though, and this was actually another factor that helped make it easier for me, was that I'm God's Godfather Botha. And so Angrabotha being his mother. Uh, so I was able to leverage is the wrong word, but like pull on that relationship and kind of approach him from I'm God's spouse to your mother, approaching it through that relationship made things a lot easier for me.
Right.
Not in the sense of, or at least not entirely in the sense of like, hey, I kind of know you, but in the sense of like lining things up. And I know your mother, therefore I know at least some of
Doing your mom.
all the time. Um, I know at least some of the things that you are because I know her.
Right.
And that's kind of an in, right? So that was like you can have deep and powerful things that happen with acquaintances, right? Like acquaintances show up at weddings all the time, like
Right.
and funerals and these deep, powerful, important moments. And also on the flip side, the acquaintance isn't in the bridal party.
Right.
That's not a thing.
They're not who you call if the fucking caterer doesn't show up.
Exactly.
No. And there's no one right or wrong way to do a polytheism or to do an animism outside of blatant disrespect.
Yeah.
But I mean, if you're doing that, I mean, you're not really doing animism or polytheism well, because I think that honestly the foundation is in reciprocity and hospitality. And if you're not willing to put forward that kind of effort, cool, but don't set up an altar.
Yeah.
Just talk to them on occasion.
Yeah, and that's fine.
But like, an altar is an obligation and a responsibility, because that whatever section that altar happens to take up ceases to be yours. You can't use it as a coffee table and be respectful.
Exactly.
But I mean, this is very much baseline nurturing of spiritual relationships, and it seems obvious to us. But the amount of people that I have run into in the wild who do not understand these very basic principles and are calling themselves pagan is amazing.
Yeah. Well, it's a thing that we talked about briefly in your in the comment section on your blog post.
Oh yeah.
Was like you had mentioned that relationships with non-human ancestors, for example, animal ancestors as kin, well, what does that mean about you as a person? What does that mean about your identity? Do you identify then as fully human, or do you identify as at least partly other than human? Right? Do you identify as bear? Do you identify as wolf? Do you identify as cat? Do you identify in this other way, whatever that way is?
Right.
And is it just one, or is it more than one? There is the meme of I'm a cat, dragon, wolf, bear, dog, cat, vampire of the 76th level. Yeah, and that's a meme, and there are people who let it get to their heads and kind of run wild with it, and that's a thing. But also, like, sure, bear and wolf, yeah, that's fine. Or 5 or 6 things, sure. Does it make sense? Is it a thing that works for you? Great. Are you being a little fantastical? Okay, look, are you hurting anyone?
Like, can I guess, like, on that level, we believe in gods.
Yeah.
Whatever structural reality you base around that, whether you are only looking at them as metaphorical, if you are just saying that the gods, like, I'm taking like the most agnostic atheist stance on gods as a conjecture. If you are understanding the gods as personified forces of nature, that is already too fantastical for most people. Fuck all the rest of it. Fuck identifying as a wolf or a dragon.
Yeah.
If you identify forces of nature as personified beings and you're talking to them, that is a step into the fantastical too far for most people. Call your fucking shit, because all the rest of it is practically window dressing beyond that baseline assumption that what you're talking to talks back and it's real.
Yeah, no, that's fair.
Like, this is like where I would get really amused when people would shit on Scientology as a religion, not because Scientology is culty, abusive, and horrid. It is, but because they would bitch about the particulars of the creation story behind Scientology. And if you've never heard the explanation for how the Scientology Dianetics come about, the notion that a bunch of these spirits got dropped off in a volcano and then exploded and dispersed all over the world sounds really goddamn funny and fantastical until you realize, like, I believe in many spirits, and how they get here is a matter of conjecture and myth.
Look, it's not even how they got dispersed that's the funny part. It's that the dude wrote fiction and then also became a cult leader.
Right.
That's the funny part to me.
Oh, absolutely.
And not funny, haha, funny, sad. But you know, but like we were talking about, it's very normal in all of the circles that I run in to do that kind of self-interrogation and to take it seriously and to be supported in it. And if things come out of it, and that's not just like, oh yeah, we believe you 100%. Like, it's okay, cool. What does that mean?
Right.
Did you check that? Did you run that against like some reality filters? Did you run that against some divination? What does that mean for you and your practice? Right? What does that change? And the answer can be nothing, and that's fine, but like, you're at least asking the questions, and these are taken seriously. And that being just a matter of course. And I was like, oh yeah, I guess other people don't do that as a matter of course, do they? Huh.
No.
Okay.
It reminds me of an old webcomic from back when Therianthropy was really big on Tumblr. And it was a webcomic called Very There. And this Therianthrope author would talk about, okay, well, it's great that you identify as whatever. Does that inspire you to do anything with your current circumstances? Like, if you believe you're this great, big, powerful dragon, do you go and work out so at least some of your body can match that feeling inside? If you believe that you're a wolf inside, do you do things that get you out in nature, that get you to actually like put grass under your feet? Or is this just thought experiments to you? Like, yeah. Which is fine if that's all it is like, maybe I am, maybe I'm not. If that's all that is, that's fine. I actually think that intellectual curiosity is a healthy thing. But if you actually genuinely believe there is some part of you that is non-human, it follows that this should produce some changes in behavior.
Yeah. Or have some kind of effect on your life, right? Like, and that's honestly the idea of having a non-human ancestor and having that relationship and growing and changing and nurturing that relationship means that there will have some knock-on effects after, right? It should affect your life. If you are developing a romantic relationship with someone and there are zero effects on your life, no, you're not.
Right.
No, you're not. Even if it's as simple as this is the person you now spend time with, okay, that is still a change to your life.
Right.
Because otherwise, no, you're not. That's not a relationship.
No.
There are effects on your life, and frankly, if the only change to your life is this is the person you now spend time with, I don't believe you. Or that's a terrible relationship. There should be changes to your life. Like, people rub off on each other. That's a thing. I'm also a very firm believer that you should grow and change as a person over the course of your life, and that relationships should challenge and push you to grow and be a better person, in whatever form that looks like. And if they're not doing that, then that's a problem.
Mm-hmm. I think that there's kind of two aspects to it. Like, that challenging can be incredibly nurturing.
Mm-hmm.
I have a hard time accepting help, which anybody who knows me in meat space is shocked, I'm sure.
Or has listened to the podcast for 5 fucking minutes.
Right. So, like, I have a hard time asking for help, and I have a hard time accepting help because I'm used to being the help.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not a reflection on my friendships. It's just a reflection of where my life has gone. Mm-hmm. So a large challenge from the people that I love is speaking up, speaking out. Hey, I'm going through this thing. Hey, I'm experiencing this. Hey, I could use some fucking support. that for me is more challenging than somebody saying you're full of shit, Sarenth. Like that is more somebody saying I love you and you're doing enough is more challenging to my sense of self and my sense of identity than you're fucking up. I can tolerate me fucking up. Enough is a hard concept for me. So sometimes nurturing spiritual relationships for me, the way they challenge me is you need to do less, or you need to maybe think about spending more time doing things you actually like want to do for you. Which
Or, hey, Sarenth, you've been in the hospital twice this year. Maybe slow the fuck down, please. I don't want you to die.
I mean, but my central point is taking me out of the equation entirely here because I totally didn't put myself in that. The thing that I'm trying to get at, though, seriously, is nurturing spiritual relationships and the challenges that come along with that will look different to different people. If you're fucking around and you've never found out, sometimes a nurturing spiritual relationship will knock you on your ass and drag you through the fucking knives.
Yeah.
I find a lot of time we give ourselves less grace than what the gods ever will.
Yeah.
Our ancestors are another fucking story because they might not give a shit. Our ancestors might be like, button up, buttercup, shit's about to get really real and you better be prepped for that. Whereas our gods are like cosmologically sitting back going, yeah, what are you fucking worrying about? This is a long cycle.
Yeah.
So that difference in perspective is also really important to nurturing spiritual relationships and engaging in relationships that are actually spiritually nurturing.
Yes. And I would say too, jumping off of that, is knowing the perspective of the being that you are in relationship with
Absolutely.
is very important. And this is the thing that you touched on with the difference in perspective. And this is the thing that I have recently come to very literal terms with. So a kind of structural change is going on within the pack tradition right now, where we are kind of renegotiating among ourselves and with each other and with the gods and spirits how we introduce new initiates into the tradition and all of that. How we handle that. Because frankly, we've had some close calls, we've had some stuff go sideways with people initiating that everyone is fine, everyone is safe, but it almost
that's one too fucking many.
Yeah, right. Frankly, one is one too fucking many. And a couple of like, oh hey, you're already here and we what?
Right.
Okay, how do we handle that? And oh hey, you live halfway across the country and no one can come help you.
Right.
How do we handle that? Or, and people coming in with various levels of experience. Oh hey, you have no practical ritual experience. You have a lot of knowledge, but no practical ritual experience. All right, how are we going to get you up to snuff so that you can do this safely and effectively?
Oh, that's goddamn funny. I did not realize that was going on when I asked that question.
Oh, yeah. 1 second. Yes. Thank you. Much appreciated. I have coffee. That is for the after party, but I have coffee. Thank you.
Nice.
I'll grab it there.
Okay, it's
Thank
up
you.
here if you need it.
Appreciate it.
You need anything for anything else, though?
No, that should be good.
All right.
Thank you.
Goodbye.
Bye. Sorry about that. But like, so all of this has been happening, and this has been over the course of several months, since at least like.
Unfamiliar with all of these circumstances, I'm fucking sure.
Yeah. Destiny's completely unfamiliar with all of this and is not in any fashion involved. Sarcasm. Anyway, without spilling their business, that's beside the point. And they're not the only example. Right? Like there are several things going on kind of all at once that is like, okay, we need to refigure this. And a lot of the discussion came up because the pack spirits, the big 7, don't really seem concerned, right? They're more like, whatever happens, like you'll figure it out.
We're really big fucking spirits, and we're not on your level.
Yeah, it's very like, I mean, no, they've got permission. We've given them permission to do the mysteries thing, so that's what matters.
Right.
And then the tradition ancestors are like, stop, no. You need controls on this. A bunch of us have done similar things before when we were alive. You don't want to do it the way you're doing it. You're gonna shit's about to get even more fucked than you realize. Like, you need more controls on this. You need systems in place to handle this kind of thing. Because we don't come from a tradition, culture that has a living tradition that stretches back 2,000 years. You know, we don't have elders who have seen all of this shit before, so we need to build the systems now to. And we're not going to be perfect, and it's not going to handle everything 100% of the time, but we need to do the best we can. And that difference in perspective between the Pack ancestors and the Big Seven was really jarring for me, especially because I was very much coming at it until I had conversations with other people in the tradition, and until I had conversations with some of the Pack ancestors, where it was like, no, I was very much on the side of the Big Seven, where I was like, if they gave the permissions, then that's what matters. Like, this is not my business to control. Like, I'm basically just a did you or did you not. I'm just a divination check. I'm just a confirmation. Which
that's nice until you reckon that you actually helped found the physical tradition as it manifests now.
Sure, and that's part of it. But also it's less that and more the except people will get hurt.
Right. But my central point being that you're carrying the traditions now as a collective.
Yes.
You get to decide where it goes.
Yes, and you here being not me, Maleck, but the royal
all of you. Yeah. It's the royal you, like everybody who's initiated.
Yeah. And that's a lot of it.
This is also true. I want to emphasize this is also something that's very true in heathenry, especially because we don't have a centralized religious system. Everybody gets a say in how heathenry develops.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't want to initiate into certain mysteries with the gods, don't. But you also don't get to dictate those mysteries and their boundaries to other people.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm not an initiate of Pack tradition. At this point, I probably never will. And that's by choice. And that's by, I have enough shit on my plate.
Yeah.
And to me, at this point, it would not be a nurturing spiritual relationship for me to enter into.
Yeah.
And I think that's the other half of a nurturing spiritual relationship is engaging in the ones that you at least have an idea will be good for you.
Yeah.
Because if you're saying what I really need in my life is to settle down and relax, then probably the last spirit you want to work with is one that's going to encourage you to travel abroad.
Yep.
You know, if what you need in your life, not want, but if you need in your life is a swift kick in the ass, a sword in your hand, then working with a god of peace is not going to be the way forward.
Right.
That's not going to be nurturing for you. It might be peaceful, it might be sedate, but it won't be nurturing.
Yeah. Working with a strictly pacifist deity when, you are in a position of creating, when you are actually being called to active and aggressive change, is not probably going to work super well. And that's not to say that pacifism can't be active in its change, but there's a difference of flavor there that seems important. And also on the flip side, I don't know, maybe it is. Like, maybe that will work for you and you just have to approach it through this very specific lens that is going to work that way. It just might not work for other people. Maybe it will work for you and no one else around you. I don't know.
Yeah. I don't have any hard, and this is one of the neat things about being in a religion where we don't have a centralizing authority or a canon of the Catholic Church. I don't have to tell you how this fucking goes.
Yeah.
In point of fact, if I tell you how it's supposed to go, I'm probably fucking wrong.
Exactly. And that's actually a really big thing of like how we're trying to shape things in pack tradition is a lot of it isn't, these are the rules. It's, hey, these are some good questions to ask. Basically, the hard and fast rules are don't fucking hurt people. Like, right. That's really the big thing, is don't fucking hurt other people. Hold good relationships. But a lot of it is very, hey, these are some good questions you should ask. You should probably ask more than these questions, but like, here's some good questions you should ask as starting points, because these will help you to find answers to questions you might not, find answers that you might not realize you need. Right. Things like, what responsibilities are you taking on? Are you taking on certain taboos? Can that be negotiated? I'm drawing a blank on any of the others that are kind of coming to mind. But even simple stuff like, which relationships are you going to take on by doing this thing, right? Like, are there obligate relationships that you must take on for this, or are they all optional? And the answer is they're not all going to be optional. Some of them will be obligated, but like some of them might very well be optional. So
this is actually like an area of modern heathen, pagan, magical spirituality that a lot of people seem to miss. Is like, if X then Y with some of these relationships. Well, how can they obligate me? I'm my own sovereign person. Yes. And in order to be in a relationship with somebody, they get to have expectations.
Yep.
Like, why is this not sinking in?
Right. Yeah.
It's really hard to like fucking hate Loki and have a relationship with Hel or Fenrir or fucking Angerbofa.
Yeah.
Like, Odin might let that shit slide, but that's because Odin can be mercenary and mercurial like that. But that is pretty much a no-go for any of his wives or children.
Yeah. Just is. And like, so discerning viewers will notice that Odinson is back in my name after being gone for quite some time. Odin and I have patched things up, so things are on better footing there. But like, not being in relationship with him for the amount of time that I was, it cost me things. I was happy to pay those things for the reasons why, but that cost me things. My relationship with Loki basically stopped. Like, we still talked occasionally, but not nearly to the extent that we were.
Right. That's their blood there. That just makes sense to me.
And it wasn't like I was upset with Loki. Right. It's not like Loki and I had any bad blood. We were perfectly fine. Loki came through for me multiple times during that period in very stressful situations where he just took care of shit. And I'm deeply grateful. And also, the relationship was more strained. It cost me things. That's just how it is. Quite aside from the relationship that I had with Odin, that is now forever changed. It cost me stuff, and that's just how it is, There are initiations, there are practices, there are ways of being in the world that I will never have because of that series of events that happened with my relationship with Odin, and that's fine. It is what it is. Quite frankly, it is very likely that I would be a priest of Odin now instead of a priest of Freyr if things hadn't gone that way. Like, my entire life, my entire practice would be very, very different. I wouldn't know the revelry. I wouldn't know Freyr in this way. Right. I wouldn't know Freya the way that I do because Freya is also deeply involved in those mysteries. In my mythological cycle, in my practice, at the autumn equinox, Freya's hand is the one that holds the sickle. She's the one who makes the cut.
Right.
And I know for some other people that's Gertha, who is Freyr's wife, but for me it's Freya.
Right. And that to me tracks because of the Githia title she holds.
Right. Also to me, I will also say this. Also to me, Freyr and Freya are a divine pairing, not just twins, but also married.
Right.
Which is very weird for me in my cultural context to say, was slightly more normative in the time period where a lot of these mythologies were established, but that is still the thing.
I think that when it comes to this notion of a nurturing spiritual relationship or a spiritual relationship that we nurture, either way you wish to take the title of this, I think that what really kind of solidifies it for me is it encouraging good growth, not growth for its own sake.
Yes.
Because if you had taken on that priest role, who knows which way you would have gone with it. But you can see, to borrow a phrase from an old friend of ours, you know which way the corn fucking grows. Like, you can see the corn's growing through the practices that you've engaged with. A nurturing relationship will allow your corn to grow.
Yeah.
And if nothing else, your life getting better or improving in some measurable fashion. Like, when people are like, well, the ancients did not hesitate to draw out gods that wouldn't perform for them. Like, this is what we mean.
Yeah.
Like, it is okay to be like, look, this relationship is not working out. It's not nurturing me.
Yep.
It is okay to make that call. And it's also okay to say, you know what, this is a rough patch, but I want to stick with it and see where it goes. Because I might not be feeling nurtured now. Maybe I just need to compost this shit and move forward.
Yeah.
I can't say that for other people. I mean, it's so individualized. And besides that, I don't have a divination mat in front of me.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, this is like also where community really gets involved in nurturing spiritual relationships, because absent me divining for you, I have no buy-in to tell you shit about how the nurturing aspect of a spiritual relationship should work.
I would disagree with that just a little bit.
Well, no, I mean, I'm saying you're Joe Blow. Like, you're Joe Blow person you don't know off the street. I have no reason to give you spiritual fucking direction. If you're part of my community, I might get tagged with some flash traffic or, hey, have you thought about it this way?
Yeah.
That's different. Like, I have buy-in with you. You have buy-in with me. We actually have vested interest in each other being nurtured. Our spiritual relationships nurturing each other nurtures our spiritual relationships.
Yes. Okay, cool. We are on the same page then.
Yeah, no, that's what I mean. Like,
yeah. No, I get you.
I'm not here to dispense like fucking like, oh, I see the card. You've gotten the 3 of swords. Have you thought about not being a jealous fuck today? Like, that's really great for monetizing an income stream for TikTok, but it's not really good spiritual advice.
Exactly. And then without, being the diviner, which is a relationship that is also the thing. It might be a transitory relationship.
Yes.
And some relationships are very transactional. Some relationships are very transitory and transactional, and that's fine.
Right.
But like, without it being that, without there being at least that level of relationship, yeah, you don't have buy-in. On the flip side, it's like, hey, that was dumb. I don't even need a divination mat. Like, that was a bad idea. I don't know what you were thinking.
Friend, have you considered fucking not?
Have you considered fucking not? Or on the flip side, hey, when was the last time you did X? Because it is very clear that you need to go do that.
Right.
You are clearly hurting. Whatever the case might be. Hey, slow the fuck down, or hey, no, like, step it up. Like,
yeah. Like, again, a nurturing spiritual relationship is one that encourages your growth, even if it's uncomfortable, or even if it's comfortable. It's not. The thing is, like, we can provide all kinds of bulleted points and lists and shit, and unless we are actually in community with you, it's going to be uninformed.
Yeah.
Like, it gets to this point where a nurturing spiritual relationship, even if it is identical every way, up to a point. Like, if you have a relationship with Othin and the runes as spirits, and you've blooded your runes, and you've hung on the tree, okay, great. You are still going to have individual relationships with every 24 of those spirits. You are still going to have an individual relationship with the old man, assuming that's who you initiated through. Even people who follow my footsteps precisely to the letter as I've lived them, you cannot step into my river.
Yep. Well, and that's a very funny thing is, like, you and I have very similar relationships. I did initiate with the runes. hanging on the tree, you know, under the old man with the runes of spirits, and the elder Futhark specifically, not Anglo-Saxon, not the younger,
Right.
the elder Futhark specifically. And we have very different relationships,
Oh
right?
my God. And it's a
Right.
good thing we do.
Yeah, right. Like my relationship with Ivaz, the yew tree rune, is very different than yours. You relate to it as Odin's staff, as the spear. For me, that's Angrboda's rune.
Right.
That is literally like, that is her rune. If that shows up, I know who's talking. Like, and that has different connotations for me than it does for you, right? Yours tends to focus more on reliability and power, the bow, the staff, the tree. Mine tends to focus on is wont to crackle as it burns, right? As a good tree to have on an estate. I forget the exact phrasing of the rune.
For those who don't know what we're talking about, these are literally like pulled out of the rune poems.
Yes. You know, a lot of mine focuses on hearth and fire and the estate,
Right.
family and land and things like that, whereas yours focuses more on the wood of the tree,
Right.
which is, those are a bit hair-splitting distinctions, but functionally are
when
very,
you talk
very
about
different.
Divination, holy shit, we can get different interpretations.
Absolutely.
Like, I don't get the estate thing so much as you do.
Yeah.
And generally speaking, the only reason those creep into readings is if we've talked lately.
Yeah.
To be blunt about it, like sometimes I'll get that and I'm like, oh, that's Maleck. Okay.
Oh. Oh, I know where that came from. Okay, that's because I talked about it recently. Oh.
Why am I getting a state from this? I usually get this for Othala. What the fuck is this? Oh, that's because I talked with Maleck recently. But like, again, nurturing spiritual relationships. We get each other thinking. We get each other to come out of our usual milieu with even Ivaz.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like one rune among 24 that we can challenge each other on and say, hey, have you thought about it this way?
Yeah. What was it? Which rune was it that, this was years ago now, I pointed out a line in the rune poem that you had completely forgotten existed, which was something about princes sit blithely within.
Oh, it's Perthrow.
Was it Perthrow?
Yeah.
And just fucked your shit up for like a good 6 weeks.
It revolutionized how I interacted with that rune, because for the longest time I worked with it as birth and mystery and all these other things. And then when you brought that line up to me, it was like, fuck. Oh, that tracks. Like I said, it revolutionized how I related to that rune. It didn't take away the previous associations, but it definitely it added and informed.
Yeah.
There are times where if I had that interpretation, different rune readings that I had made previous would have been drastically different.
Yeah. And on the flip side, like most of the time for me, like you will occasionally see Kanas as a negative rune with the Ulster poem.
Yep.
I almost, like, it has happened once or twice where that has been a thing for me, but most of the time that's not the case.
9 inches out of 10, I get the torch rune.
Yeah.
But there's been occasions where it's like, ew. This feels like a sore. What the fuck is this?
Yeah. Well, and also, interestingly too, so for example, even when I was not on speaking terms with Odin, inverse Ansu's is still, and was then, the hardest no I can get from the runes. It is everything that should be right and good turned on its head. It is botched hangings. It is bad death. It is all of the worst possible outcomes. It is unnatural feeling. And that is a relationship born of that is an understanding born of my relationship with Odin, and my relationship with Ansu's carries some of that relationship, right? Mm-hmm. Your relationships will impact each other.
100%. Botched hanging, that's a good one.
It really, that's very genuinely, that's the first feeling I get from it. It's such a visceral feeling. I feel it in my throat and in my gut at the same time, and I'm like, wow, that is viscerally uncomfortable. And I can still recall the first time I pulled it and the feeling I got, and it has never not elicited that same feeling.
Very
Even
interesting.
if I pull Ansus and I'm not doing reversals, because like I'm just like pulling blind.
Yeah.
If it comes out reversed, I still get that feeling for a second before I flip it around.
Right. So when I get inverse Ansus, I agree, is probably the hardest fucking no out of the Elder Futhark. I say this also noting for the audience that not everybody reads reverses.
Mm-hmm.
It is very much a borrowed thing from tarot, which is fine. But it's how I came into reading runes, and it's been very useful.
Yeah.
Inverse Ansus for me feels like the hardest fuck no. It's like the gods are opposed to this. Don't fucking do it. It doesn't show up very often, but when it does, it makes an impact. It is like somebody grabbing you by the shoulders and yelling no into your face to me.
Yeah.
Which, given the rune poem, makes total sense because it talks about like the mouth and estuaries and things like that. Like, you're not crossing this river. You're not going. You're not fucking doing it. Like, just no. Just this feeling of full body no.
Yeah.
So interesting. I will have to see the next time I draw it on Susan in reverse what it feels like.
Yeah.
Because it does kind of feel like I recognize some of that because it does feel like a catching in the throat.
Yeah.
So I recognize some of it, but the viscerality of having a noose around your neck, which I have had not occurred to me.
And it's very specifically, and y'all, this is about to get a little graphic. So
trigger warning.
Yep. If you're not up for that, please come back in 3 minutes. But for me, it's not just hanging. It's botch hanging. It's when your neck was supposed to snap and it didn't, and you're choking instead.
Yeah.
It is your face bloating because you can't breathe.
As opposed to the...
Yeah. Instead of just dead and you're done, it is...
You're going to linger for hours now. Good job.
You're going to linger for hours, and you're going to feel as your body fails. You're going to feel your bowels fail and everything release. You're going to feel your face bloating. I can feel that every time I pull it. Starts in the neck, and then it goes to my gut, and then my face starts to go. And I'm like, okay, we're going to stop. That's a no. Okay, let's move on.
And trigger warning over. You can come back into the stream now.
All good.
So the really neat thing about some of these relationships as you carry them forward is not only do they inform you in different ways, but you inform them. Because if you cannot relate through one aspect, like if the ulcers thing, if you've never had an ulcer, either on the skin or in your belly, it's really hard to relate to that. You get the feeling like ulcers were common enough that people knew what the fuck they felt like.
Oh, yeah.
And so, like, you know, nowadays, because we have really excellent skincare, we have really excellent medicines. Like, even if somebody knows what an ulcer feels like, they don't know what progressing through an ulcer until it heals itself without medicine feels like.
Yeah.
Like, there's a bit of imagination that when you sit down with the runes and go, why the fuck did that make it into the poem?
Yeah. Well, and on the flip side too, you bring stuff that isn't necessarily in the poems. Like Manas for me is the pack rune. Right, is the rune of bonds and relationships, and that's pack, and that's not in the frickin' rune poem. It's all it's humanity and humankind and man. That's all what the rune poem's about. What does pack have to do? Because it's from me. That's the relationship that Manas and I have are because of that. Right? It's you bring things to it, just like you bring things to every relationship, and that's not just okay. It's good.
Like, honestly, like, if you're not bringing things into the relationship, what are you fucking doing? Like, a nurturing spiritual relationship is not only... We nurture something in the gods.
Yep.
Which seems, for some fucking reason, to be a controversial statement. But I just... To me, it just follows. The gods are in relationship with us because they get something out of it.
Yeah.
Like, and it's not that they're less than us. If they are cosmologically significant enough to be a god... There's stuff that they do that I can't.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean they don't get something out of me being in a relationship with them.
Mm-hmm.
So to me, like, it's when I say like spiritual relationships are two-way streets, yes, that includes the gods. Yes, that includes the ancestors. Yes, that includes the Vatir. And that includes the people that you're in fucking community with.
the possible exception to this, but this is also from a very specific and very different framework than what we're dealing with, is with enlightened Buddhist beings. But that is within
I would push back on that, because if they're not enlightening us, if the bodhisattvas aren't around for our sake, they stop being bodhisattvas.
Not bodhisattvas, Buddhas specifically.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Different.
sorry.
Yeah.
To clarify, Buddhas specifically are, but that's also such a different framework.
Oh yeah.
That is.
It's polytheism with a lot of fucking extra steps to me.
Right, no, it is, and those extra steps aren't like, oh, it's this with extra steps, so it's just this. Like, no, those extra steps really.
I'm very much talking tongue in cheek. There are a lot of fucking differences.
Yeah, no, it very much matters, right? A Buddha is a very different kind of being than your general divinity, in my experience and my understanding, both like intellectually and experientially.
Yeah, 100%.
And that's coming from someone who is not Buddhist and who does not have a relationship with any Buddhas. I just don't. And that's fine. It just is what it is. And
I have a relationship with Green Tara, but she doesn't ask much. Like, she literally doesn't even ask for refuge vows, which is nice, and she wouldn't be getting them anyway.
Yeah. I was gonna say, is Green Tara a Buddha? Or is she a bodhisattva?
I believe she's a bodhisattva. My brain is not entirely.
And no worries if you don't know. Like, it's not actually that important of a question right now.
She is known as Jetsun Dolma in Tibetan Buddhism. She is a bodhisattva, yes.
Okay.
So, yes, that is very fucking different than being a Buddha.
Yeah. No, this is a very different thing.
But I think too, like, that actually does speak to something that, because things come out of certain spiritual perspectives, backgrounds, etc. When you enter into a relationship with them, like, I am not encountering Green Tara in this relationship as a Buddhist. I am definitely a fucking heathen who was guided to start talking with this really powerful spirit.
Yeah,
and that is how I conceive of her. And she has not decided to change my understanding or expectations at this point, for which I'm grateful. But she does provide a measure of peace, understanding, and presence, which I find comparable, though not one-to-one, to Frigg.
Yeah, I can see that.
It's in that ballpark of peace that I feel when I sit down to tea with Frigg. It is most fucking certainly not the same.
Yeah.
But it is a nurturing spiritual relationship for me, because she does these things out of the goodness of her being and does not expect a whole lot in return.
Yeah.
But I will occasionally do the mantras that she asks, and that is my piece to give back to her.
Yeah. And it's also, that brings up an important point, though, is the context of that you are in and the other being is in, whether that is the people around you or the spirits around you, right? Whether these are incarnate or non-incarnate beings, the context matters quite a lot, right? The context that a Buddha is in is very different than the context that your local river spirit is in.
Oh yeah, 100%.
These are wildly different contexts, and that matters. Mm-hmm. You cannot approach things from a different context than the one that you are in.
It's also important for you to have an understanding of your perspective, because if you want to approach things from a Tibetan Buddhist perspective, this is different than Vajrayana, this is different from Theravada, this is different from heathen polytheism. And these are not inherently better than the other, but if you don't understand the differences, you need to before you start interacting with the spirits. Because how we treat river spirits and how they treat Naga are fucking different.
Yeah. There are similarities, but there are similarities,
but yeah. Like, if you're approaching river spirits from a Tibetan Buddhist perspective, there are rituals and there are mantras and there are offerings that you give that are very, very specific to that.
Yes.
Like, a heathen might give it directly into water. Tibetan Buddhists generally won't.
Yeah, generally speaking.
Like, just as a very basic difference. It would not be a nurturing spiritual relationship for them to treat a river spirit the way we would.
Yeah, exactly, and vice versa, right? And also that does depend a bit on the context of the spirit that you're talking to, right?
Correct.
Like, you know, we talked about this with David when he was on, I think, the second time,
Yeah.
of like river spirits in like East Asia and North Asia. They don't want tobacco. They don't like it. That's a pretty
Whereas
known.
our river spirits are like, gimme.
Yeah, right. The river spirit here, like I said straight up, she will be mad at me. Like, love her to death. She will be mad at me if I don't give her tobacco.
There was a joke
at
that
least on
Shannon,
occasion.
myself, and Caitlin shared on around Grandfather Fire a while back, and it was like the abbreviation of always have tobacco, AHT.
Yeah.
Like, and it's true. Like, pretty much any spirit around here that's worth their salt is going to want tobacco.
Mhm.
Whether or not they're a native spirit, everybody around here wants fucking tobacco.
And that's just, we're in North America. Like, that's a spirits on Turtle Island. They want tobacco. Is what it is.
It is what it is.
Um,
You pitch that shit anywhere near a river in Tibet, you might get eaten.
yeah, right. Don't do that.
Don't do it.
They don't like it. On the flip side here, you probably should at least try.
Right.
That's not to say, right, like, that's not in like David's list of general offerings. I don't think that he always has on him.
Right.
That's fine, right? That's not to say like, oh, you must offer tobacco. Like, fine. I'm not his relationships. If it works for him, great. For me,
Right.
I lay down tobacco. Why? Because
It's the hospitable thing to do, is what I've been told.
she told me that's what she wants, so that's what she gets.
Yep.
Does she also get things like coins and chamomile and water and other things? Yeah.
Yeah. Occasionally, my river and creek spirits get whiskey. Which, if you're approaching from a purely native perspective, is like, fuck, no, don't do it. But I'm not approaching them from a native perspective. I'm approaching them from a heathen one.
Yeah.
So, like, my context does matter. The context of the spirits that I'm interacting with matters. Like, if it is sincerely no bullshit, 100% a native spirit, I don't bother bringing alcohol around because I know I'm going to get my ass kicked.
Yeah.
But that's me being hospitable. That's like a basic heathen ethic there. Like,
Yeah, right. No, 100%.
like, I want to nurture this relationship. Here, have some. Are you fucking stupid?
Yeah. Right? And like, this isn't true for like all of the good neighbors, but for a lot, as a general rule, you don't approach the good neighbors with offerings of iron. Why? That's fucking poison.
Right.
Don't do that, asshole. Like,
Hi, I want to fight.
yeah, right, like, hello, I have offered you poison that will burn you. Thanks. I'm actively going to fight you now. Like,
Right. I think too, like, it's so funny because, like, you'll get into these discussions around, like, what is a proper offering? And it's like, have you fucking asked the spirit? Because that's the proper offering, is what the spirit fucking wants.
mm-hmm.
Like you can go to the most experienced elder you know. You can go to the most grand poobah of the 33rd order of the quadrangle, and you know what? They're not going to be able to have that conversation for you.
I've had elders, like traditionally trained elders, like be like, did they ask for it? Okay, give it to them.
Yeah, that was the thing that made me laugh so goddamn hard during our classes. Was like, okay, well, if they asked for it, why are you bothering asking me?
Yeah, like they asked for it.
The elder.
Yeah, and like to a certain degree, like, yeah, it makes sense because like you want to make sure you're not like crossing a taboo you didn't know about.
Right,
But
right.
like on the main thing, she was like, it doesn't
Sweethearts.
cross literally any taboos that you have. No, it's fine.
Right.
It's well within the range of established offerings. It's just slightly to the left. Yes, give it to them, please. They have asked for it. Give it to them.
Is it gonna put you out? Maybe you have something. Maybe ask something in return. But like, and this is, I think this is like, again, this is where a lot of the metal meets the meat, because nurturing that relationship means that you learn, you grow, even if it's just like intellectually. Okay, I know this might be taboo. I would like to offer this to you. Is this acceptable? Yes. Okay, this is a hint to this is how our relationship's going to go.
Yeah. And don't be afraid of things going outside of the norm of what you are used to. And I'm going to use an example from my own thing. So I have gone on record and written a blog post about how fucking I don't do crystals. Like, I really don't. I think it's really a bad industry that is soaked in blood, both of humans and also strip mining, and it's really bad. And there's very few ways to do it ethically, and there's a lot of bad shit about it. And also, I don't think it works that well. I think that for the most part, you're going to have a much better time just grabbing a piece of rock out of your backyard where you have a relationship with the land spirits, and they give you the rock, and boom, there's relationship and there's power there, and etc. There's so much more to that, I think, than, you know, a $300 crystal that is perfect for what you need. Like, okay, but does this piece of granite fucking work? Then use that.
Right. That being said,
there are certain practices that I picked up that require the use of very specific crystals, right? There's this one practice that I picked up that the ingredients for the item that you make includes 9 different, not all of them are crystals, but like 9, there's a couple of metals and a bunch of crystals that are very specific. Like, you can sub out like 2 for like one other thing, which is also a very specific crystal. And it's like, okay, so these are very specific crystals that all go into this thing. If I'm doing this thing, which is part of my broader relationships, right? It fits really well into my priest work, fits really well into my other broader spirit worker work, right? It makes a lot of sense for me to do this thing.
Right.
Except for this one thing where it's like, yeah, but these very specific crystals go into it. Okay, cool. And it's not like, oh, these randoms, like, it's all backed by lore and 2,000 years and blah, blah, blah. Right, it all makes sense.
Right.
Very specific symbols of very specific things. I'm speaking in incredibly broad terms because this is not my teaching to pass. And I'm not talking about nuts and bolts or anything. But
actually, there is something I can talk about. So if you want direction from the ancestors and a heathen perspective and you're seafaring, a sunstone, whether or not it's an actual sunstone and cut the same way as they would have had, works.
Mm-hmm.
I'll talk about it from a heathen perspective because fuck
yeah.
And all the sunstone is like an angled piece of quartz, near as we can tell.
Yep.
That works. I had mine in an ancestor altar for literally, like, I think 10 years. Worked just dandy. And you know where my inspiration for it came from? The fucking Vikings TV show.
Yeah, no, 100%. And you're also someone who doesn't fuck with crystals for the most part.
I don't. Like, I like rocks, I like shiny things, but they're not my go-to.
And on the flip side, because of that, like, working with crystals in that way for this teaching, now specifically on my mobile Freyr altar, because I have a mobile altar that rolls up in a cloth, there are specific stones that are now enlivened to carry one for him, one for the wild hunt, one for the revelry, and one for the land spirits. And the first 3, you know, for him, the revelry and the wild hunt, those are specific crystals that have specific meanings, enlivened in particular ways. All of that matters a lot. All of the symbology there matters a lot. And then the land spirits one is literally just a polished stone that came out of the soil that we bought for our garden this year. It was just by happenstance, there was a kind of rock that polishes really well that happened to get tumbled up in the garden soil that we bought from the garden center because we needed to fill the raised bed. Yeah. And it's polished like it came out of a freaking shop. Now, is that happenstance because, you know, that's what happens when you spin soil enough?
Right.
Yeah, the right kind of rock is going to get polished like that. The soil is acting like the grit in a polisher. Yeah, sure, that's fine. But also, it's perfect.
Yep, I understand, because I have a very I don't know if I've shown it to you, but it's a perfectly round stone that came out of my driveway.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and it's my land this year. It's my land this year stone. And it's almost perfectly polished. It feels really good in the hand. It's got just enough weight where it doesn't feel like it's weighing my pocket down, but if I need to ground, it's perfect.
Yeah.
It's like if I need an instant connection to my home, there it is. It's always on me.
Yeah.
And like, you don't have to go down to a fucking crystal shop. Now, if you're a rock hound, cool. Go with what feels good. But if you're just looking to connect with land spirits, a rock off the fucking ground, even if it's gravel, works. That is millions of years of development from great chunks of earth.
Yeah.
Fucking works, man.
No, 100%.
The thing too, like one of the things that I'm known for now in this community is the trolls will have me go into the creek behind our house and bring up stones for other people that they want to establish relationships with. So if I hand you a troll rock, there is nothing fascinating about this rock as such. It's not like these are quartz. It's not like these are amethyst or pyrite or anything. It's literally just, hi, these are the stones that the trolls handed me to hand to you.
Yeah. It's not, this crystal has these associations because blah, blah, blah. It's like, no, dude, this is just a rock out of the creek.
Right.
Like, that's it.
The mystery is that the trolls had me go get this for you.
Yeah. Right. The mystery, and like the land spirit stone on that altar, I don't know what kind of stone it is. Like,
does it fucking matter?
No, like it's like this rock came out of my garden. Like,
that's the relationship.
Yeah. That's what matters.
I think we've made our points pretty well tonight.
Yeah.
And I think we're kind of wrapping up. Like, the point isn't like the provenance of where things come from or how they ended up with you. It's the stories that are attached to the relationships that form and nurture us both.
Yeah.
So with that being said, do we want to wrap up?
Yeah, I think so. Any closing thoughts?
I think honestly, if you leave anything here tonight, like, the nurturing of your spiritual relationships will by default look different, even if you're in the same community and following the exact same path and same gods. If it's not, you need to question why, and if it's actually nourishing you and nurturing you.
Very much agree. As always, my point usually comes down to, the context that you're coming from and the other person is coming from matters. And these things take time. And it is, like I said at the beginning, spend the time. If you spend the time, the relationship, if it can work, it will work. Like, if you spend the time and you do the thing, it'll work. And if it doesn't, then there's a reason for that. All right. I will catch y'all on the after party for anyone who wants to join us on the Discord. Sarenth and I are both Midnighters, so we'll probably be there for a while. All right. It has been lovely, and we will see you next time, folks.
So.